Hi friends, it's Cindy Lyon from Greetings and Memories. Here to show you another card with our Tasteful Touches stamp set. This time we're going with a lacy floral pearl accented card, so something a little bit more feminine looking. For those of you participating for World Card Making Day, don't forget that you can click the files at the top of the page and get the written instructions if you'd like that. And in your supply packet, you'll have, like I said, some of those little pearls in the baggie there, and a Whisper White medium envelope that we're going to set aside, and a Night of Navy card base, a piece of white that we'll use for the inside of the card, simply because it's kind of hard to write on that navy and have it show up well. We have a layer of basic gray cardstock. We have a piece of Designer Series paper from the In Good Taste Designer Series paper collection. We have a scrap of Whisper White that we'll use to stamp and cut out our flower. And then I've pre-cut a couple of labels for you with our Tasteful Labels dies. So we have one in navy and one in Whisper White that we'll be using for that. So let me move some of these things out of the way that we don't need. And we're going to start out with our scrap. And we'll take the flower stamp from our Tasteful Touches set and mount that on our clear block. Open up the Night of Navy stamp pad. And I'm using some of my older style pads for these colors. Just ink that up with navy. And stamp that on my scrap of white cardstock. Clean that stamp and put it away. And then we are going to fussy cut our flower here. And as I mentioned previously, kind of the trick to getting a nice smooth cut is to hold your scissors in place and move your cardstock for the most part. And you can see I'm not cutting right on the edge. I'm purposely leaving a little bit of a white border around my flower, and that helps you because you don't have to worry about being quite so precise with your cuts. It's okay if that border is not consistent. If it gets a little bit wider in some spots and a little bit narrower in others, it's not really a big deal. And that's done. We'll go ahead and set that aside for now and come back. We're going to do most of our stamping on the piece of Designer Series paper. So now I'm going to take that lacy looking bit from the stamp set. And we're still using the Night of Navy ink. I'm going to stamp that a couple of times. I'm going to stamp it kind of down towards the lower right. And then I'm going to stamp it again closer to the upper left, but not all the way to the top. I'll leave a little bit of space between the image and the top of the paper. Okay. And now I'm going to go ahead and open up my basic gray stamp pad. because I want to take that same lacy image and stamp it in the center of my white label. But I don't want a real dark gray, I want a lighter gray, so I'm going to stamp off on my grid paper first. And forgive me if I get my head in the way here. So make sure I'm getting that kind of centered and more or less straight. And there we go, have that stamped in gray on our label. Okay, now I'm going to switch things up and grab the greeting. And the one that I'm using from this set is "The Good Things in Life Are Better With You." You could certainly use the "You Are So Special" if you wanted to. Not sure if just saying hello is going to fit on that label or not, but we can find it. Yeah, just barely. So if you wanted to use the "Just Saying Hello" stamp on this card, that one would work too. But I'm going to use "The Good Things in Life Are Better With You." And as I mentioned on some of my other World Card Making Day videos, I'm predominantly using the D block because I had several new stampers joining me today, and I didn't want you to have to get a bunch of different blocks. And you'll see that this doesn't fit straight on there, so I am going to mount that diagonally on that block. Now, certainly if you've got larger blocks, go ahead and use a larger block. But this is going to work for us here. Make sure I get the right ink pad. Yep. I'm going to ink that in navy and stamp that on my label. So there's that part done. You see what I do sometimes is before I go to the stamp and scrub pad, I'll kind of stamp on my grid paper and get some of the excess ink off that way. And then I find that my stamp and scrub doesn't get as dirty as quickly if I do that. Not having to get up and rinse it off all the time. So now we're going to go back to our designer series paper. And we're going to grab that floral, or I should say foliage spray from our stamp set. And I'm going to ink that one up in the gray. And I want to stamp that one a few times. So I'm going to stamp it in the upper right. Re-ink and stamp it in the lower right and go ahead and overlap it over what we stamped previously. And I want to do it one more time on the lower left. And I'm actually going to do it a little bit lower than I did on this example because I want more of it to show below the flower when I'm done. So I'm going to go down there a little lower this time than what I did on that one. And again, we'll clean this stamp and put it away. That's all the stamping we're doing for this card. So I'm going to go ahead and close up my ink pads. Set those out of the way. And we're going to start building from the bottom up with our card. So we're going to adhere our gray layer. And you can use whichever adhesive you have. If you have the Stamp and Seal or another tape runner, use that. Go ahead and use your liquid glue if you want to use your liquid glue. Either way works. Get that white out of the way. I just kind of eyeball that and try to get it evenly spaced around it. Press that down. Do the same with our stamped layer. Oh, get a little nudge there. There we go. And, yep, I did have it upside down. press that in place. And now I'm going to put some adhesive on the back of my stamped white label. And center that over my navy label. There we go. And now I'm going to use some of the Stampin' Dimensionals that you also received with your supply kit on the back of the label. This is, I want that to stand up a little bit off of my main part of my card. So now I'm going to go and lay this over what I previously stamped, and I'm going to cover up those stems in the middle there. I'm going to go a little above center. I don't want it right in the middle because remember we're going to be adding that flower. So I'm going to go up a little bit from the center. And now we'll take our little flower that we already cut out and pop some dimensionals on the back of that. I'm going to place that so it overlaps my label a little bit there. And you see a little, that shows a little better here because I did stamp it lower than what I did on my earlier example. So I'm going to press those dimensionals down in place. And I'm going to get out my little self-adhesive pearls. Now those do come in a large sheet, but I cut them up and just sent a few in the supply kits. And I'm going to put 3 of those pearls in the middle of my flower. And of course, it's not cooperating. And the other 2 pearls are going to kind of, they don't have to be in an exact position, just kind of randomly place them on the label, one on one side and one more towards the other side. And see how that just adds a little something to make our card a little more interesting. And then, like I said, if you would like to stamp on your inside label, feel free to, or label, your inside layer, feel free to do so. Maybe put a flower in the corner or some of the foliage sprays and go ahead and adhere that on the inside of your card so that you have a light surface to write on. And then the same with your envelope. If you'd like to embellish your envelope with some stamps, go ahead and do that. But other than that, our card is finished. There you go. And like I said, don't forget, you can get the PDF instructions. If you're doing World Card Making Day, you'll find those under the file link at the top of the page. If you are seeing this video at a later date on YouTube, you can go to my blog at greetingsandmemories.com to find the measurements and written instructions for the card. And if you are interested in purchasing Stampin' Up! Products, such as our Tasteful Touches stamp set or our Tasteful Labels cutting dies, you can find those at cindylyon.stampinup.net. Thank you for joining me. See you again next time.